some of the progress that we have made in our relationship with China could be undermined by this issue flaring up.
All right, that was news to me, that just taking a congratulatory phone call from the leader of Taiwan would undermine a relationship with China. Last time I checked, not exactly robust. Former Reagan campaign manager Ed Rollins on that. I didn't know this would create such a diplomatic furor. I know about the one China policy, Ed, but is it, at the risk of sounding like an ignoramus, which I am, that big a deal?
Well, it shouldn't be that big a deal. I mean, obviously, Taiwan has been a very significant ally of ours. It's a democracy. It's 27 million people. It's been our friend when China wasn't always our friend. So I think to a certain extent, returning a phone call, placing a phone call is absolutely no big deal. And the message to the State Department and elsewhere is this administration is going to be different. We're going to do things that are different. And if this single one call breaks whatever relationships we have with China, they're not very good relationships to begin with. I think it's a big to-do about nothing.
And when I read back a little bit about what that original one China deal meant when Jimmy Carter finalized it back in the 70s,
79.
The communiques do not say that U.S. supports Beijing's view of one China, only that the U.S. acknowledges that both China and Taiwan agree on that principle. That's a very big difference.
China is the only country in the world that considers Taiwan its 19th province. The people in Taiwan that have had democratically elected, they haven't declared independence, and they probably won't declare independence, but certainly there's a strong independent movement there. But they do have freely elected. They're very much a democracy. They're very much an ally. And I think to a certain extent, again, it's way too much. China's been a complicated relationship for a very long period of time. And the Chinese have to understand this is a new president. He's going to do it his way. And basically, you better adhere to what he wants to do.
All right, now I know it's a little bit like financial apples and oranges here, but we do know that China rigs its currency to get the upper hand on trade. We do know that it has a habit of not treating rebellious workers very well. We do know that it has a very closed society when it comes to use of the internet. We do know that it's been taking a number of provocative actions that outdo anything that is provocative on the case of Donald Trump by militarizing the South China Sea and taking islands that aren't theirs to militarize them. So who leads whom in provocative acts?
Well, historically, China's done what China wants to do, and I think that's the reality of it.
Do you think then they're making too big a deal of this for just the deflection value?
Absolutely, and I think at the end of the day, let's get a State Department in there run by Trump's people, whoever he chooses as Secretary of State. Let's develop the relationships. Let's talk to both sides. Let's talk to other allies around the world. But I think the idea the State Department's going to sit there and lecture the White House that one phone call has basically wrecked everything we've ever done is absurd, absolutely absurd.
Do you think that the Trump folks knew what they were getting into, that this call, we're told that what was well telegraphed and indeed planned, was part of a wider effort, or that they bumbled into something and were trying to justify some machination?
I don't think they bumbled into this. I think there was a plan. I think obviously the plans, we've been talking about it for 3 days now, 4 days now. I think it's an important message, and the important message is there's the new sheriff in town, or new president in town, and you got to deal with him and what he wants to do and what his team's going to want to do. And certainly Taiwan is going to be a very important ally, continue to be an important ally, and China obviously is someone that has to play a different game than it's ever played before.
All I remember is that Ronald Reagan with a Star Wars defense shield, crazy as it was, and people were saying it was very undiplomatic and weird, in fact, it got the Russians to the negotiating table, didn't it?
Well, I was in the White House. In addition to running his campaign, I spent 5-6 years at the top level of the White House. It was a very deliberate decision.
Absolutely.
And I think this, we'll see where this goes. I think this is not a warning shot. I don't mean to overinterpret it, but I think it was a positive thing. He returned a phone call. He basically, or made a phone call, whichever the case may be. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, he said to Taiwan, "You've been our friend. You've been our allies. We've traded a lot of resources with you. We've armed you over the years. We have a protective pact with you, like we have many other places, and you're important to us."
Yeah. I just find it odd when people say this is a provocative act, and I look at all that China's done. China's got
nuclear planes with nuclear weapons flying right to the border of Taiwan right now, as we speak. If that's not a provocative act, you know what is?
Yeah, just a little balance there.
Right.
All right, thank you, my friend.
My
Ed
pleasure.
Rollins, the former Reagan campaign manager. All right.